Thanks to you at home for joining us this hour. Well, overall, this is getting worse, not better. 24 hours ago, this time last night, we were sort of trying to get our heads around the fact that the White House had actually announced that the location of the next G7 summit would be the president's private club in Florida. The White House, on its official Twitter feed, clipped the president talking about his Doral golf club thingy in South Florida being the host for the G7. And the White House Twitter account posted those remarks from the president online with this caption: President Trump shares the location of the next G7 summit. Shares the location, meaning that's really where it's going to be? I mean, among the many and varied problems with the president requiring foreign countries to pay money directly to him and his family if those countries want to attend next year's G7 summit, among the many and varied problems with that, is the fact that such a thing would be wildly and flagrantly illegal. There is literally an explicit line in the U.S. Constitution that says the president can't take stuff from foreign countries. He can't enrich himself from foreign governments while he's in office. So, as I say, 24 hours ago, right? This time last night, this whole thing with the president saying, oh, we should host the next G7 in my club, Doral, it's perfect. This time last night, that seemed insane, yes, but also totally impossible, right? I mean, yes, clearly the president wants to hold the G7 at his private club so he and his family can profit from it personally, but that is so blatantly illegal. It's literally against the black letter law of the Constitution. We do still have law enforcement in this country. So as insane as it was that the president is trying to promote that as an idea, at least we can be sure that that won't happen, right? Right? Well, then tonight, we got this on the front page of the Washington Post. Attorney General William Barr, top law enforcement official in the United States, books Trump's hotel for a $30,000 holiday party. So don't worry, it is clearly illegal for the president to set himself up to personally profit from his presidency by making it so that people who want to or need to do political business with him can pay him in order to do that. Don't worry, America, that's illegal. Law enforcement won't let that happen. Law enforcement in this country will get right on that right after the Attorney General, the top law enforcement official in the country, pays the president and his family more than $30,000. Because this year, after Trump named William Barr to be Attorney General, this year William Barr decided he would move his annual holiday bash to the president's hotel. So this time he can pay the president and his family somewhere upwards of $30,000, might get up to $50,000 depending on how hard they hit the open bar. After he pays the president that $30,000 to $50,000, then Attorney General William Barr will get right on to the people's business of making sure the president doesn't, profit from his presidency, doesn't violate the Constitution by moving the G7 to his private club so those other people can pay the president too, just like William Barr is at his Christmas party this year. He'll be Johnny on the spot, making sure the president is kept to the straight and narrow on that as soon as the check clears. At the Washington Post today, Josh Dawsey and David Fahrenthold also had some appropriately gonzo reporting about why exactly the president might be trying to do this G7 summit thing for his Doral club in Florida in particular. President Trump said yesterday, Monday, that he was likely to hold next year's Group of Seven summit at his golf resort in Doral, Florida. That decision would be an unprecedented use of American power to create private revenue for the American president. If Trump does choose Doral, he would be directing massive amounts of money to a resort he owns personally, and which, according to his company's representatives, has been severely underperforming. Trump spoke about this idea of hosting the next G7 at his private club from Biarritz, I think that's how you say it, the French resort town that hosted this year's G7 meeting. It was typical of other recent summit sites, luxurious but secluded, pretty enough for photo shoots, and sufficiently isolated to be sealed off for security. The past two meetings hosted by the United States have been held at Camp David, the presidential retreat in Maryland, and on a resort island in Georgia. But Trump said his advisors have searched the entire nation and decided the most suitable spot for the 2020 G7 summit is something different. A golf club set among drab office parks near the Miami airport. The president's own golf club. I mean, even if that golf club that belongs to the president was doing great, was like a jewel in the crown for the president's business interest and was like this immensely profitable thing, it would, of course, still be crazy and fantastically illegal for him to be trying to pull off this stunt, to direct all of this ill-gotten business, right? This big corruption windfall that he could direct to that private club by naming it as the venue for the G7. I get that, right? What I did not realize before this whole thing actually started happening is that that particular club owned by the president, that particular golf resort, actually isn't doing well. It really needs the money. That severely underperforming line in the Washington Post story on this scandal comes from a tax consultant who was actually hired by the president's business. That tax consultant told Florida officials last year that the net operating income at the Doral Club has fallen by 69% and is a, quote, severely underperforming property even compared with other nearby resorts. According to the Post today, quote, the Doral Club is a keystone of Trump's business, supplying him with more revenue than any other hotel, and also carrying some of his biggest loans. Trump purchased the Doral Club in 2012, taking out $125 million in loans to do so from Deutsche Bank. And so, yeah, this is his keystone property in terms of revenue, and it's failing. And so, yeah, the president might want to figure out a way to use his public office now to force people and force other countries to spend a lot of money at his severely underperforming club. The Post also notes that Doral had to settle a particularly nasty bedbug claim in 2016. Doral is also one of the locations where Trump has been caught out using lots of undocumented immigrants to do renovation work and landscape work. So there's lots of problems that the president has with the Doral Club, which might make him want to shove some business in that direction. But the financial problem there is particularly interesting, right? Because since 2012, for whatever reason, there is this one bank, Deutsche Bank, that has given President Trump more than $350 million in loans, even when other banks and lending institutions long stopped being willing to touch him, even with a 10-foot pole. Nobody quite understands why Deutsche Bank has been willing to dump so much money into Trump's businesses when everybody else thought that he was a financial catastrophe. But if one of the clubs that he owns, one which he owes $125 million on, has just had its operating income drop by 69%, and that's his keystone property. He's getting more revenue out of that property than anything else that he owns, and it's down nearly 70%, and he owes all that money on it? I mean, you can understand why the president might be willing to go to great lengths to boost his business there, even if he has to do so illegally, right? He may be worried about that $125 million loan he took out on now that failing property. Is he actually worried about that loan? Why did Deutsche Bank give him that loan in the first place? What were the terms? I mean, was Doral such a great investment at the time that it was worth Deutsche Bank risking $125 million with this guy who had gone bankrupt so many times in the past and screwed them on previous loans? I mean, why did that happen?
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.